Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's one topic I've been itching to jump into all week. It's that little thing, and it's called the US election. And while the results of the presidential election are still up for grabs, there is one indisputable conclusion that's come as a result of the proceedings of the last couple of months. And that is, you can no longer rely on what you're told by the mainstream media. Not only do they tell outright lies, which are often constructed around anonymous sources, they dismiss the truth when it's presented to them, they refuse to cover important news, and often they denigrate those that disagree with them. Now, if you think things aren't that bad, I'm afraid you haven't really been paying attention. For 4 years, the US media and many establishment outlets around the world have waged a public relations war against Donald Trump. It was primarily targeted at allegations of election collusion with Russia. Now, they all knew, these media outlets all knew what the US intelligence services also knew, and that is that these allegations were entirely manufactured and fabricated by Hillary Clinton as a distraction from her illegal email activities while she was Secretary of State. But that knowledge didn't stop her repeating the bogus claims. Take a listen.
If it still is a question for anybody in our country, the absolute answer that the Russians interfered in our 2016 election, they did so to favor Donald Trump. They were much more involved, and aggressively so, than I think many of us had any reason to expect.
Now, even her then boss, Barack Obama, got in on the act.
I think there is no doubt that when any foreign government tries to impact the integrity of our elections, that we need to take action, and we will, at a time and place of our own choosing.
Now remember, both Obama and Clinton knew what they were saying wasn't true. But that didn't stop the Democrats and the media from hounding Donald Trump through an impeachment process, despite knowing what we have only just learned. Clinton made it all up, and Obama was briefed on her plan, according to some reports. And incredibly, the US media mostly refused to make much of this. But so too have they turned a blind eye to the Hunter Biden laptop scandal that allegedly linked his father to a massive cash for access scheme involving some of America's enemies. They ignored it, and then they claimed it was part of some sort of Russian disinformation bid. Does that sound familiar? And they didn't make much of Joe Biden's video confession that he threatened to withhold $1 billion of aid to the Ukraine unless they sacked the prosecutor that was investigating a firm for corruption on which his own son sat on the board. Their cover-ups for Biden Sr. and Jr., quite frankly, and their bogus claims against Donald Trump were all about influencing last week's election result. Now, I don't mind saying it didn't work. The Trumpsters came out in force. But unfortunately, so too did the Democratic dead and their dodgy ballot harvesters. They resurrected, they brought, they bullied, they bribed thousands upon thousands of votes. And the media, of course, deny that this is correct, despite the video and the audio recordings of their operatives actually boasting about it. There are clear breaches of electoral law. We know there are questions about the vote chain of custody. We know that scrutineers have been prohibited from doing their job, that identification requirements for voters haven't been met. And all of these claims, which can be backed up and verified, were at first ignored by the mainstream media, then they were denied by the mainstream media, and now they're claiming that they're episodic, meaning they're confined to small areas rather than systemic corruption and failure. I guess eventually they're going to make a similar claim about their own bias. Now, the US election result is going to play out over coming weeks. It will be what it will be, but legal process should be followed, and it needs to be followed for the satisfaction of everyone concerned. However, the shameful conduct of the mainstream media has simply smashed their credibility and authority, and I'm not sure it can be repaired. Put simply, they're not worthy of your trust because you cannot rely on what they tell you.
I said, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired.
Hey, Keith. You've got a beautiful display, mate. It's nice to see you back again. No Billy, but Keith has come to say hello, folks. Good to see him back again. But yeah, like I was saying on the last report I put out, bait and switch. Look at how all this could go down, folks. Just think about how all this could play out. You know, what they're going to do is they're going to completely demoralise everybody's faith in the political system and also in the media through this whole process that they're doing. And this is the same as what they've done in other Eastern Bloc countries. Someone posted a great comment on one of my clips the other day, and they said that this is what happened in Czechoslovakia. The election was stolen, and it was so obviously a fraud that by the time it came around for the next election, nobody wanted to vote again. And that's kind of the way this is heading as well. And they've made it so obvious. You've got to ask why they made it so obvious. There's been all the talk of the Democrats, and they've just been full on. They've been saying they want to, arrest all the Republicans. These people need to be removed from society, anybody who supports Trump. And they're making it so obvious. And again, the guy who filmed himself tearing up ballots, and they left such a trail of evidence to make it obvious that this was a fraud and obvious that the media is completely out of line. There was one woman on a hot mic complaining that anyone was questioning the election because they'd called it, as if the media can actually call the election.
He's decided to be the president. Remember, just because CNN says, or even Fox News says that somebody's president doesn't make them president. So I think everybody wants to know that this was done properly and legally.
What is happening? Like, Trace, we've called it.
And I think we have to look into every one of these concerns.
Yeah, and I think Cleta makes a very good point there.
I mean, the elections aren't called until December by the Electoral College. That's who calls the US elections. So there's so much evidence out there to show that this has been a fraud, and I think it's been done deliberately. I think Trump's going to win, and I think it's always been planned to be that way. They want to try to restore people's faith in the judiciary. And of course, they're going to be able to use this as an excuse to move everything over to a blockchain. You watch. The next time you vote, they'll want to do it on a blockchain. They'll say everything needs to be on a blockchain. They'll use this as an excuse to usher in their quantum financial system as well, which will be complete mass surveillance and absolute tracking of everybody and every transaction they ever make. I think this whole thing is a play. I think it's always been a play. The media is talking about it now as well. The media is saying, like here on Sky News, they're saying, well, we can have no confidence in the mainstream media anymore, as you just saw in that opening clip. Alan Jones has also been speaking out about it. I mean, there's a lot of people. Fox is sort of starting to come on board with it a little bit now as well, knowing that, unless they start calling out the other media, then, no one's going to trust them either. So they've got to try to set this whole left-right dichotomy up. Give people something to believe in, something to hope for. But ultimately, all roads lead to Rome, folks. That's the way it goes. What people don't understand about government is that everything that controls it is the deep state. People think about the government and the deep state, and they think, well, okay, we've got a legitimate government here, and then we've got all these little gremlins in the background, these evil people who've made secret deals who are really controlling things while our leaders are actually trying to fight for the good. We've got people in there that are messing it up for them and making it hard. What they don't understand is how the mechanism really works. There was actually an interview I did the other day with Steve Wybrow, and he mentioned a great description of it when he said it's like an iceberg, because that really is the best description of it. You know, you've got the tip of the iceberg sticking out the top, and that's what you can see. And that's just people that are put there, puppeteers, or puppets that are put there for us to vote for, people that we think are in control. But really, the rest of the iceberg is what's in control. The rest of the iceberg is the unelected government, the permanent government that's always there, that consists of major corporations, banking interests, big money cartels. And that's always there. It doesn't change. We vote for whoever is sticking out the top of the iceberg, and they put on a theatre show for us so we don't notice the mechanism that works behind it. You know, the deep state is always going to be there. The deep state couldn't be there without the state, and as long as the state is there, the deep state will always exist. The two are inseparable from each other. That's the issue. And people don't understand that. As I've said before, folks, the thing is with government is no matter who you vote for, the government always wins. The government always gets in. And it's the same now. You know, Trump isn't going to save anything. He can't save anything because he's just part of that tip of the iceberg. You know, he's just part of that we see, but he doesn't have any real power. He never has had any real power. Just what they allow him to have to make it, you know, look the part for us. But there's no real power there. All the decisions are already made. And they want to go where they want to go. And that's kind of what they're going to do. They're just going to take it where they want to go. And they can use this as an excuse to roll out everything else. And they can get people to be confident in it and people to believe that they've just been rescued by Trump when they haven't. You know, Trump's been a player the whole time. Come on, go away. Chickens, folks, they get a bit noisy. Trump's been a player the whole time. And it's important that people understand that. The whole thing is a play. You know, I think Trump is their trump card, folks. I said that when he was elected. He's the trump card. I suggested then that he may even be the last president. Who knows, maybe he'll get assassinated. Maybe they'll do it that way. I mean, anything could happen. But they're going to have their play the way they want it to happen. Now, they're going to have their play either way. And if Trump does get elected and win the legal battle, which I'm almost certain that he will, the Democrats, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, all of these people are going to be poised to attack him. They're going to be absolutely poised to create as much chaos as they possibly can. And that will be a great excuse for martial law, all under the guise of protecting Trump and protecting the Trump presidency. I mean, they're going to make a fuss either way. Absolutely, they're going to do it either way. But what gets me is the amount of rabid extremism that they're showing. You know, to Oberman and everybody. I mean, so many of the news services are just screaming out for blood.
So her colleague just decided to throw her under the bus and say that this lunatic who's on the show is making a very good point. She's not making a very good point. The election is called. It's done. It's over. We're dealing with someone who's attempting to stage a coup right now. That's Donald Trump. He is the loser. He needs to accept it. So do his supporters. So do the Republican lawmakers who are enabling his ridiculous narrative. It's time to move on. It's time to concede. And I can't believe that the country's going through this right now. This is ridiculous. It's next level stuff.
So I think this has been done deliberately. They really want to turn people against the media. They want everything on a blockchain. The idea is going to be, how they're going to sell it, is through the concept of transparency. We can't have any of this type of corruption again. We've got to make everything transparent. So they'll put it all on a blockchain. And that includes the money, voting, the news, people's permanent records, if you will. They want everyone to have a permanent record. I mean, a lot of people have already, but they want it to be on a blockchain. So yeah, that's the way I think they're going to play it, folks. I think this whole thing's been a play. I think it's been a theatre show. I think it was always supposed to go down this way. I mean, Trump knew about the Hammer software. He knew about scorecard software. He's known about this for months. Why didn't he do anything about it? He mentioned it, but why didn't he do anything about it? Because they wanted it to happen. Why was it made so obvious? Because they want people to know. Things aren't revealed like this if they don't want people to know. Even the Hunter Biden laptop, if you think about it, that just happened to be released just before the election so we could see just how corrupt all this is. I mean, they've gone to every extreme possible to completely demoralize the United States and cause people of the world and the United States to completely lose faith in the US democratic process. This isn't being done by mistake. I mean, they're not that stupid. They don't mess things up that much, folks. This has been done by design because they want the result that they're going to get. And either way, it's going to push to a major clash on the street. I mean, the Democrats to have had the carrot dangled out to them and to have it snatched away at the last minute, they're not going to be happy. And they're going to have all sorts of violence ready to erupt as soon as the announcement is made. More cities are going to burn, more shopping centres are going to burn down. It's just going to be chaos, folks. We are really heading in for a hell of a 2021. We really are. It's going to be crazy, absolutely crazy. And through it all, the coming solar minimum. I mentioned this a year or two ago, or perhaps a year ago, perhaps 18 months ago, perhaps 2 years ago, but I've been mentioning it on and off. When you really look at the whole situation of the world, folks, we're heading for a solar minimum. We're heading for an ice age. It's predicted to happen. Now, all you got to do, if you go into Google Images or any type of images, or just search for solar minimum, and you'll see graphs that show that these happen every 200 years or so. And we're heading into another one. We're heading into one sort of right now, and we should be well in the middle of a solar minimum by 2040, 2050. And it's going to be like a 50-year ice age. That's what's predicted. When it comes, it's going to be quite sudden. And you think about what they've done, burning all the forests out, breaking down all the supply chains. If a solar minimum comes and things just suddenly get very cold and stay that way for 50 years, well, it's sure ain't going to be COVID that's killing people, folks. I mean, there's so many plays going on here, but I think preparing for a solar minimum and just getting yourself a food supply, folks. Even the mainstream media is now saying, yes, we're heading for food shortages. They're saying this in the United States. They're saying it here. Zimbabwe is out of control. Countries in Africa are really, really having a hard time since the supply chain broke down. And these countries were having a hard time anyway because they've been so raped by the West. So we are heading for an interesting future, folks. Food shortages and perhaps a great deal colder in temperature. So just get prepared. And in the meantime, of course, they're talking about rolling out the vaccine. They really want everybody vaccinated. Do not take this vaccine, folks. Whatever they do to you, do not take the vaccine. There are far worse things than death, and you should be standing up for yourself in the face of this. But again, it's going to affect everything. It's going to affect international travel. It's talking about, I suppose many of you have seen, Ticketmaster is now talking about introducing a health pass, of course. They'll let you go and buy tickets, but after you've bought the tickets, then you'll have to give them a COVID-safe whatever. I mean, they want to see a negative COVID result. They want to know you've been tested.
On November 9th, pharmaceutical company Pfizer released early results on a COVID-19 vaccine, giving the concert industry much-needed hope that business can resume in 2021. In preparation, Ticketmaster has been working on a framework for post-pandemic fan safety that uses smartphones to verify vaccination status or test results. If approved, here's how it would work. After purchasing a concert ticket, attendees would either need to show proof of vaccination or a negative test result approximately 24 to 72 hours prior to the event, depending on local government requirements. The plan, which is still in the development phase, will rely on 3 separate components: the Ticketmaster app, third-party health information companies like Clear Health Pass or IBM's Digital Health Pass, and testing and vaccine distribution providers like LabCorp and the CVS Minute Clinic. But once a fan's COVID-19 status is verified, Ticketmaster would issue credentials and the show would go on. For everything you need to know, head to Billboard.com.
I imagine they wouldn't give you your money back as well once you've bought the tickets. I'll just say, well, you forfeit the money or else you go and get tested. So it's going to really limit the attendance to ball games, to nightclubs, to all sorts of sporting events, concerts, unless people actually want to go and get this thing stuck up their nose and get this vaccine, which is going to alter their DNA permanently. So they're putting all sorts of things in place, and I imagine they'll be putting this in place for travel as well. I really doubt that I'll be traveling again. I mean, as much as I love traveling, I really doubt that I will be, because I'm certainly not going to be taking any vaccine, and I'm not going to be taking any COVID tests. So I'm just kind of hunkering down here, really, and preparing myself for what's coming. I'm pretty happy here, and I'm pretty well stocked, so we'll just be seeing how things go, folks. But yeah, I think this has all been a play, and I think Trump's going to win legally. And I think people need... There was actually a KGB agent, a KGB defector years ago. I'll see if I can find the video clip. And he said there are four processes: destabilization, demoralization, crisis, and then normalization. I think it was, yeah. And that's what they've done with the United States. And they say this will take a period of decades. I mean, destabilization, demoralization, this could take 20 or 30 years. And when you see the United States, it's been destabilized, it's certainly been demoralized. Now we have a crisis, which is this whole COVID thing and the election and everything they're doing. And then it becomes a process of normalization to the new normal, which of course has been the catchphrase and buzzword that we've heard so often. The new normal, normalization into the new COVID reality. And I think this is the perfect way to do it. And people will beg for it. And as I said, this is exactly the way they did it in Czechoslovakia. It's the way they've done it in other countries. It's the way to introduce you to communism and, well, not even really communism, socialism, fascism, totalitarianism. I mean, it takes many forms, and I think they kind of blend all of it together. Personally, I don't do isms. It's just ism, you know. But, yeah, a mass surveillance future that people will not want to be involved in at all. So be careful, folks. Be careful how we're being played. Don't think Trump's the savior. We've got to pay attention to what's really happening behind the scenes, which is the smart grid, the vaccines, and everything they want to roll out. Trump is still saying he supports the vaccines. I mean, he's saying he won't lock the country down, but hey, I mean, even with Biden's just announced he wants to take the guns. How many people do you think are going to let him do that? You know, if the word gets out that he is actually going to take the guns from people, I'd say the militias will go to Washington. They won't even let him into the building. So they're doing everything they can to show you just how corrupt and how wrong and how fraudulent this election was, folks. And there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. Demoralization. They want people to completely lose faith in the US political system. The financial system is just going the way of the dodo because they've just flooded so much stimulus into it. It's ridiculous. It's unfathomable and unpayable in thousands of years, I would say, the US debt. So, I mean, there's no way they're going to get out of any of this, folks. It's all been a play. It's all been done by design. So, yeah, just a few thoughts, folks. Nothing much of real substance to bring you today. I just wanted to share those thoughts with you. I wanted to show you Keith in the yard because I know people like to see Keith and Billy. Still haven't seen Billy, but it's nice to see his dad back. But anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you to all the people who send me so much information, and it's pouring in again. Thank you to the people who order T-shirts. I've got plenty of T-shirt stocks there at the moment, folks. So if you want a T-shirt, the details to get one are on the website. And yeah, stay strong, stay focused, stay safe, stay well, but stay powerful, no stake in the outcome. Remember, this is the time we came here for. This is the big moment. This is the big test. So you've got to be able to face infinity without flinching. And it's going to be all the non-active players that go into the mainframe anyway, and they're all probably already in there. I mean, we're going to get rid of so many non-active players and non-playing characters through this whole vaccination thing. So, yeah, but the knock-on effect is going to be the shortages, the food shortages, and the breakdown of the supply chain. So many animals being killed, killing all the minks in Denmark, killing all the chickens in Victoria and in other places. Yeah. So just get stocked up, look after yourself, look after your family, and get prepared for what's coming, because I don't think there's going to be too much stopping it at this stage. I think too many people are dependent upon Trump saving them. You know, that's another reason they've done it this way, is so that people keep waiting for this white knight to come along on a savior, and, you know, on a white charger and save them. And I'll get another 4 years out of Trump thinking he's going to drain the swamp when, you know, like I said, folks, doesn't matter who you vote for, the government always wins. Trump hasn't drained the swamp. He's just renamed it to government-approved wetlands. But anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on this report today. Thank you to all the people who sent me so much information. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thank you to everyone who's on the front line. I'll speak to you again soon. Please take very good care. Until then, in Lakesh.
I want everyone to share the shit out of this live. My good friend has just given birth at City Hospital. She gave birth yesterday at about 10 to 12 in the afternoon to a healthy baby boy. There was no problems at all. By 6 o'clock in the evening, she was due to be allowed to go home, and they never sent her home. They said that the baby had jaundice and they had to put him on the neonatal unit, which was fine. She had absolutely no issues with that at all. So the baby went onto the neonatal unit, and they said he'd be allowed to go home 12 hours later, meaning 9 o'clock this morning. We are now at what time in the afternoon? And the update now is, until mum consents to have a COVID test for herself and her newborn baby, they are refusing to let her take her newborn baby home. Mum has no symptoms at all. Baby has no symptoms at all. She's also been on the Serenity Suite all night at City Hospital with her partner, but her partner is allowed to go and see the baby, but mum is not. They have also gone out of their way to administer antibiotics to her newborn baby with none of the parents' consent at all. They are refusing to let her take her baby home unless she allows them to give her baby a COVID test. This is wrong. This is against the law. This is out of order. They are doing everything without her consent, and something needs to happen. She's not allowed to take her baby home. This is not okay. Please share the hell out of this live and make it go viral. This is not okay.